Yeah.
So is that just all the notes you listed? That's just the 4 notes in the chord?
Exactly.
And how far do you go up or down exactly?
Extended range on your instrument. What instrument do you play?
Guitar.
Okay. So what I would do is I would put it in open position on guitar.
Okay.
Starting from the lowest note, so starting from the E. So your lowest string is low in terms of registers is E. So I would start on the F note, which is the first finger.
Okay.
And then I would just put all the notes in D minor 7 that go up from there. And then you can just see all these possibilities. Like guitar players, a big part, one of the handicaps, well, one of the advantages of the guitar, and also one of the handicaps of guitar players, is that you see like one shape, and this is my one shape that I use for D minor. It limits what you can do when you see D minor. If you see it this way, then you can see so many shapes within this. There's so many possible shapes that you could create, like, oh, here's D minor, here's D minor, here's D minor. Just in open position, you could play like 30 different ways you could come up with a D minor chord. You know. Are they going to be all that different? Not necessarily, but it gives you, you know, idea. Other questions? Yeah.
So what you were using as the bass when you the first recording that you did, that was just the bass note from the chord.
Yeah, well here's the bass breaks the rule of voice leading. So the bass line doesn't have to voice lead. And usually, here's an oversimplification, but usually the bass is going to use the root of the chord on the downbeat of the chord. So, so here I'm literally just playing like the root of the chord, but on that, are you talking about the very first song I played?
No, just what you just did now.
Oh yeah, I was just playing the root twice. I did bum 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 dum 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 dum. I played it twice just so for the loop, just so.
So then, and then you just added on the notes up above with voice leading.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any of the 3 or 4 notes in every chord with voice leading. Exactly. And this is how people make beats. You know, if they're doing hip hop beats, or you know, this is how rock musicians come up with songs. It all, you know, it's all just, you know, chord tones with a jigsaw puzzle of different rhythms. Yeah. Putting them together in different ways. So to me, like after years and years of kind of floundering with trying to use like scale-based approach and you know a lot of different theory and this is what I've come up with as one of the most useful tools for me personally. This is how I share improvisation with classical string players. Because a lot of classical musicians also don't learn how to do this stuff. And I know that probably a lot of you maybe are self-taught or, you know, and so probably you don't use a lot of this stuff either. I think one of the biggest mistakes we can make is to assume that theory is too hard for us. Like, well, I know some people deal with that theory, but that's not for me. You know, I'm going to do it. You know, I think it's a big mistake. Theory is not that hard, actually. And, you know, but I can relate to it because I'm like scared to death of my computer too. You know, like just like, I can't mess with that software. That's going to be crazy. You know what I mean? So I think you have to do the same thing with theory. Like, be like, okay, let me deal with this. Like, you have to turn off a switch or turn on a switch and be like, okay, I'm just going to go into this world and try to, you know, try to be accountable for the music. When I was, you know, classically trained musician growing up, I was just as insecure about this stuff as probably you are. Maybe some of you have only played the guitar for a year or something. I don't know. But can you imagine that a classical musician who's played for 20 years, they have maybe even less experience than you do with creating music? That's the biggest thing I want to see is create music. What is holding you back from producing your own music? What are you producing your own music? No? Do you want to produce your own music? Yeah. Okay, so what's holding you back from doing it? You don't know? Okay. Is it because you don't own the right technology?
We own it.
It is? Okay. But you have your voice, you could sing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could get together with somebody else who has a keyboard, you could make music, right? Is it that you don't understand the music? Is it that you don't know how to write it down? Like all these things, we all have a story about why we, like, do you produce your own music? Okay, do you want to produce your own music?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's holding you back from producing your own music?
I don't want to do
Trouble with improvisation. Yeah, I understand. So what's the trouble with improvisation is because anybody can improvise. Right? I mean, it's just totally, what's the trouble? I think the problem is that we assume, when I say like improvise, something, then you think, oh, I have to improvise something good. But you added that good, right? We get caught up with good and making something good. First of all, we just need to improvise. Then we can worry about good. It's amazing to me because I think that part of a given about what is human nature is we are born to be creative. They say human beings are born to be productive, right? It's human nature to be productive. But what does it mean to be productive? Embedded in the idea of productivity, in my opinion, is creativity. Productivity is not just like making widgets, right? Productivity is creating something that has your stamp, your personality. I think your stamp, your personality is the most important asset that you have, actually. It's the one thing that can make you succeed if you didn't have a great education, you know, over somebody that did, or that make you succeed over somebody else that grew up in a rich family and you didn't. Because you can just be so creative with your thing. You can just force that on people and they're like, damn, that is deep. I've never heard that before. Like, think about all your favorite artists. They're not necessarily virtuosos. They have a uniqueness. Like, you just heard what I did. Whether you like or don't like what I do, you cannot fight the fact that it is a strong thing. I have my thing, right? Because, why do I have my thing? Because I was willing to just pursue it over and over again for 25 years. Every day, I'd get off the violin and be like, what am I going to mess with today? I'm going to try this. And a lot of it sounded like dog shit. You know what I'm saying? But I had to be willing to go through that. I had to be able to get rid of good and just be like, just improvise. Just come up with stuff. I love to share this analogy of when you were 3 years old, all of you, your parents gave you a piece of paper and a crayon, or you found one. They didn't tell you what to do with it. You just started scribbling. You scribbled, you doodled. You doodled. And then your mom got home and she's like, oh, look at the doodles. And she put it up on the refrigerator. And then the next day you doodled some more. She put it on the refrigerator. And every day there were more doodles and more doodles. And then finally there was one day you had 3 other kids and they were doodling and you were doodling. And your mom came out and said, oh, that's my giant doodles right there. She could tell between all the other kids. And if they put your doodles with 100 other 3-year-old kids' doodles, your mom could go around and say like, that's my son's doodles. That's my daughter's doodles. They would recognize, why is that? Because your personality, your stamp came through. It became manifest in that creative process, in that thing that you did, which was just doodling. Nobody had to tell you whether to make it good or whether to make it bad. And that's the thing we need to do with music. We need to doodle. You know, this is something I want to issue as a challenge to every one of you in this class, because it's not about your technical ability on your instrument. It's not about how much technology you own. It's not about how much theory you know. Presumably you're in this class because you want to produce music, or you've put it out there that, you know, maybe I would like to produce my own music. So what I want to challenge you to do is produce your own music. Create music. If there's something that's getting in the way of you creating music, then go to your teacher and say, this is getting in my way. Help me with this. And I'm sure that he would love nothing more than to say, you know, to sit down with you and come up with a solution. And you can reach out to me, you can email me if you need my help. My door is always open. But that's what these guys in prison did. They all made music. You can be sitting in solitary confinement, you're going to hear somebody singing music. You could go out in the prison yard, you got people beating on picnic tables. And you got people collaborating. The most unlikely collaborators you could possibly imagine collaborating and making music. Because music is a human thing. It's a communal human thing. When everything else gets broken down and you're sitting in the prison yard and there's nothing else, there's no institution, there's no marquee, there's no press release, there's no ticket price, there's music. Somehow we let all the trappings of socialization get in the way of our human ability to create. And we're worried about what is good, if it's not going to be good, or it can't be this, or it has to be that, or it has to be this. And this is going to be the difference that makes you break out or not break out. It's the reason that this year I was voted #1 in Downbeat Critics Poll as the Rising Star Jazz Violinist. And I was nominated by the Jazz Journalists Association for Violinist of the Year. So it's the reason that after 20 years of really, really struggling, since I was in those prison cells, and and I knew I want to be one of the world's greatest jazz violinists. It's the only reason that I've gotten to this point. It's because every day I had to say, fuck all that dumb shit. I'm making music. I'm going to find a way to do it. And I don't care if somebody thinks it's bad or it's good, I'm going to push through all that. So that if there's any one thing I was going to communicate to you today, it would be that. We can talk about theory and all these different ways to go about music. At the end of the day, you're gonna imagine music the way you imagine music. You're gonna imagine music the way you imagine it. And we're all gonna use different tools to get through it. Nobody thought that a violin player was gonna be able to do the things that I do, but I just had to find my own way. That's it. And again, you might think that, I have all this advantages of having learned theory and having studied violin and all that stuff, but it wasn't always an advantage for me, honestly. If I wanted to go sit in a jam session, people saw me coming a mile away. It was hard to break into that jam session, you know what I'm saying? People didn't want to let a violin player get into that. But I just had to really, really push for that. Okay, questions? How much time do we have?
Wouldn't like 12 minutes.
Oh, okay.
I guess we put it
They're
around.
around 10 till.
10 till?
They got about 4 minutes.
Oh, 4 minutes?
Was it a 50-minute class?
Yeah.
I've got some cards I want to hand out to you guys. And if you'd like to get free stuff from me, I'll send you some free MP3s, some lesson videos. I have this program online where I teach improvisation, I teach theory and stuff like that. I don't know if it'll be perfect for all of you, but you might be interested. You can give me your email address, I'll put you on my list if you're interested. So you sure you don't have any questions? Yeah.
So you don't need to have to understand chords and everything to be able to write music?
No, you don't have to. I think that you should try to understand that stuff. And I think that you shouldn't just assume that it's too hard. I think that you should pursue trying to understand it on that level. But I still don't think that should hold you back from making music.
How do you start?
Well, there's lots of ways. You can record yourself singing, with a tape recorder. You can go and sit around and mess with GarageBand. You can get together with somebody else and tap out rhythms and jam that way. There's lots of different creative processes you could use. Like, you could just put pencil to paper and take a guess. You could roll dice to come up with the notes and the motif that you want to create. There's a lot of ways to compose music, and different ones might work to create different results for different people. I encourage you to try all kinds of different processes. Like I said, sometimes collaborative processes, writing chords and coming up with melodies, writing lyrics, and then having somebody else come up with, there's so many different ways to compose. Does that make sense? Do you play an instrument at all?
A little bit of guitar.
Okay, so you can use that if you want. You can come up with a melody, and maybe try to, collaborate with somebody who can make the chords, or you could use a program like GarageBand or like Band in the Box that'll generate chords for you. You could hear a progression that you like, and then add a melody to it, and go from there. Yep.
What's your email address?
Chris@christianhouse.com, or you can use the QR code there, and it'll take you to it. Chris@christianhouse.com, or you can just go to christianhouse.com and hit contact. Yeah.
So I have quite a few song ideas that I have chorus and some of the lyrics worked out, and I can sing them, but I haven't had the time to go to the piano and pump out what I'm playing and write it down. What would be your suggestion to building a song off that, or what's the next step to go from here?
You say you have lyrics and a melody?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a couple ways to do it. One is just to fish around.
And I play some guitar and piano, so that.
Yeah. Well, one way is just to kind of fish around and try to hear it, But another way is to take those is to establish a key, like just sing. And once you have a few notes in the melody, you can say, oh, this is the key. Once you've established the key, then you can write out the 7 chords in the key, And you can see that some of those chords are gonna have those melody notes in them. So like if I have, 3 chords to choose from, and then I have my melody, then let's say that here's my melody. Then what I'll do is I'll take the predominant notes of the melody, and I'll say, where are those? Oh, they're in this chord. So let me try this chord. So it's just kind of like problem solving. If you have those melody notes, then you can describe them to different chords. Or like I said, you can fish around.
Build a note off, or build a chord off the note.
Yeah, if you have melody notes, then you can say, okay, what are the predominant melody notes here? What chords do those melody notes belong to within the key that I'm in? There's only 7 chords in that key.
Okay.
Any other questions? Well, I think I need to let you go, but like I said, my door's always open. It's great to meet y'all.